tell me when you're ready to roll.
Yep.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for attending this town hall. So this is to do with the HQP program, the OMAFRA one, but it's co-funded from Food from Thought. So we have two funding sources: the Canadian First Research Excellence Fund and Food from Thought, which obviously the Yarrell Institute, isn't it? So to begin with, just to give you a big overview about the HQP program, it's fairly, not yet, Kat, it's a fairly unique program in that a lot of the scholarships you apply for is simply to get funding and promote your kind of career. With the HQP program, what the main aim is to bring the leaders of tomorrow and give them a step on the ladder to success. So what we really focus on are those people, those students who want to follow a career in business, innovation and research. They literally want to translate their knowledge into real solutions for the Ontario agri-food industry and beyond. So what you'll notice as I go through things is that there's a big business element, because when we're doing graduate studies, the science is hard enough to comprehend. We don't have that business aspect to things. So what you'll notice as we go along is that we'll talk about business and innovation a lot. So really what this program's to do with is giving people a head start in that path to become a leader, be it in government, industry, or the like. All right, well, thanks, Kat. So you can do the next slide. Oh, two slides there. So the program objectives, the first one, I suppose, is to undertake research of relevance to OMAFRA research priorities. And we'll talk about these later on. It's a very broad scope. It's not just to do with agriculture, animal production and food science. It's environmental sustainability, and obviously climate change is there, and also community outreaches, because there's issues in all those respects. Another sort of objective is to produce highly skilled graduate workers. There was on a meeting just the other day a survey to do with the skills requirement for the agri-food sector, and at the moment, which seems to be common everywhere, is there's a 25% shortfall of skilled and unskilled workers in the agri-food industry. You know, we could say that the agri-food industry doesn't look that attractive, but in actual fact, there's a lot of opportunities there. Both from the production phase right through to end product development. And really what we want to have is this impact. As I mentioned, a lot of research that people perform end up in journals, put on the shelf, and it goes nowhere. But what we're trying to do is have this impact in agriculture, solve real problems and real challenges. And obviously support, as I mentioned at the start, support this sort of generation of researchers, policymakers and business leaders for the agri-food sector, which is certainly lacking, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. So really what this program's to do with is to take people to the next step. All right, thanks, Kat. So we've had the HQP program here at Guelph has been running for about 15 years now, and the graduates who graduated with the HQP, we try to keep not tabs on them, but we try to keep in touch with them, because we want to know what we're doing is actually helping. And we did a survey last year, and we got some feedback from those graduates who have gone on to bigger and better things. And what they all kind of unanimously say is that this program's very good, to increase the business knowledge and the networking skills, and also that, like I mentioned, that first step on the ladder, because the first step on any career ladder is always the tallest one to go for. So this is what the program brings, is this marriage between research and business and leadership, which are required in the industry, government, and putting research into action. All right, fair. So the components of the program, obviously you get funding, a scholarship, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but a key part of the program is a compulsory, I don't like to say compulsory because it makes it sound like we're forcing people, but this course called Uni 6050, which is the Innovation Internship, and this is where the business aspect comes in. And Gina's going to talk about the course in a little while. The second part of the sort of component of the HQP, as I mentioned, is the research element. A research project that's under the OMAFRA priorities, and as I mentioned, there's a very broad scope there, so don't think if you don't work with a plant or an animal, you're excluded. In actual fact, we try to expand it as much as possible. And the third component of the HQP is basically attendance at the HQP recognition event, because if you do get a HQP, it is a big sort of plus to your career in terms of a line on the CV and shows you've got the sort of leadership skills that's required by the industry. So we have a HQP recognition event, which this year is going to be on the 2nd, where we outline what good challenges we've done and the award recipients from last year, the incoming ones and things like that. And also what we try to do is keep tabs, as I said, when you graduate, because it's very important for us to tell your story, how you got from where you are, a graduate student, through to a leader in the industry, because it's good feedback for us, because we know we're doing something right or we need to change things. And the other part about it is that we really, what this program's to do is tell your story of a career path, because it is inspirational, motivational to other students who see it. Because, you know, I always say you never come to university to say I'm going to study food science. It's something you kind of acquire along the way. So these stories that we're going to tell with the scholarships is very important. Okay, Kat. There you go. So I'll hand it over to Gina now, and she'll talk about the Uni 6050 course.
Thanks, Keith. Hi, my name is Gina Rex. I'm Education Coordinator with the Agri-Food Institute here at the University of Guelph. Agri-Food Institute is a portal for research and teaching in agri-food excellence at the University of Guelph, and I manage the components of the course that Keith mentioned earlier. So as a condition of your scholarship, you will enroll in University 6050. It's an experiential learning opportunity. It was developed in collaboration with Food from Thought and was influenced by a 2018 report by the Royal Bank of Canada called Humans Wanted, How Youth Can Thrive in the Age of Disruption. It was a year-long study taken on by RBC that stated that in the age of disruption, our Canadian youth are actually not being prepared as well as they could be. And one thing that education systems could do is to provide more opportunities for students to collaborate, critically think, and cooperate with others. So we designed a University 6050 with that in mind. It's a 2-semester, 1-credit course where the faculty and instructors in the course place HQP scholars with Agri-Food scholars, and that cohort then goes through the 2 semesters together in doing group work. That's the cornerstone of the course. Additionally, you'll get opportunities for knowledge translation, learning how to write an op-ed, or learning how to write a policy brief, and have lectures and presentations by select leaders in the agri-food industry. In those groups, you will work with either NGOs, government agencies, businesses on a challenge that those businesses come to us and say, yeah, I think a group of graduate students across the disciplines in ag and food would be great resource for us. So it's a win-win for the students because they begin a journey where they are actually in interdisciplinary groups. So they are learning other languages, you might say, reaching across the silos from like plant ag to animal bioscience to food family relations and nutrition. For the first time, they're able to talk to other students that way. And then they spend 2 semesters working also with this outside partner, which increases their awareness of the food and agricultural industry. Can you go ahead and switch the slides there, Kat? Thank you. This year we're working with actually 5 partners. I wasn't able to get the 5th logo in time, but I can tell you a little bit about these challenges. The Table des Chefs is an NGO actually in Montreal. They are interested in increasing the food literacy of high school students. So they're putting together a program called Kitchen Brigades, where a group of our students is working on mobilizing knowledge for them. Our Food Future is a Smart Cities Challenge here in Guelph, and we have a group of students working on finding out how to support farmers in incorporating some regenerative agricultural practices on their farms. So a lot of qualitative research right in the beginning for them. Good Leaf Vertical Farms is the #1 largest vertical farm in Canada, or in Ontario, sorry, and they're looking to find ways looking to find out if their practices are as sustainable as they can be. Livestock Research Innovation Corporation has a group of students working with them on looking to find ways to mobilize their knowledge for farmers. So the way the extension services have worked in the past, trying to make those lines clearer from farmer to research institution. And lastly is De La Mer, which is a fresh food market in Toronto, is trying to develop ways to package their fish in more sustainable ways, plastic packaging. So they're doing a lot of field research with customer satisfaction and whether customers would adopt and pay additional monies for this kind of packaging. So that's just a sample of the groups that we're working with this year. In the past, we've had government agencies, Agri-Food Canada worked with us last year on a food security project. We've worked with the NGO The Seed downtown. So it's a great opportunity for students to develop some communication skills across with their other students, but also to learn about different sectors different industry and organizations in the agri-food sector in Ontario and beyond. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take them now, or I don't know what you scheduled, Keith, for later.
Oh no, thanks, Jen. Yes, for
Thank you.
This is for your benefit, the town hall. So if you've got any questions, you can put your hand up and go live, or you can put them in the chat. And no questions, silly questions, as I say, because it is a complex kind of thing with lots of things going on. So feel free to ask any questions you like, because if you're thinking it, so is everyone else. So that's usually the trick, isn't it? So as Jenna rightly said, one of the key elements is that business school sort of course and communication leadership, because even though you get a brief exposure just over 2 semesters, you'll be amazed how much it improves when you go to interviews saying you've done this and you've done that. And everything's relevant, because in a lot of ways, these challenges have a unified feature of being challenges that need to be done. So in terms of research priorities then, with the OMAFRA research priorities, as I mentioned to you, it is a very big umbrella. Yeah, sure, you've got animal production, plant production and food safety. But, you know, it really does go right across the board, from environmental sustainability to food security issues, which obviously is affecting some areas, and also through to product development, trying to, again, transition research into action. So even though you might not even be in the OAC, it doesn't mean to say you're precluded. You know, in the next slide, we have some of the departments that have HQP students within them, and the family relations and applied nutrition, for example, you wouldn't think, well, what would they be doing? So don't exclude yourself thinking, well, I'm not on the farm or anything like that. It is really very diverse. We have environmental science to do with sustainability, obviously the animal biosciences, the pathology and OVC, population medicine, engineering, you know, new technologies that can make a difference, food science, plant ag, even computer science sort of projects, which is obviously big data and smart farming, and geography and environmental rural design. So obviously contact us if you feel you're not sure if your kind of research project fits into this. But if you view the OMAFRA research priorities, you'll notice they're very broad. Anything to do with the agri-food sector, and you've got a link there. And the important thing to note is that your project doesn't have to be funded under the OMAFRA program. So obviously we have OMAFRA programs, the Alliance program and the wider programs, but you don't need to have OMAFRA funding. It could be under NSERC, SHIRC, whatever it is, in order to qualify. All right, thanks for that, Kat. All right, so just to give you an idea about what the alert was then, just to give you an idea about what projects have been funded in the last round, and as I mentioned, the program's been going on for years, so these are just examples. We have them on animal health, we have them on product development, pathogen control with food safety, and also pest management, the emergency management, which will probably increase due to climate change, and sustainability in terms of compostable single-use packaging, and also technologies that can aid the farms, talking about disinfection technology for stormwater treatment, for irrigation water use. So there's a broader range of projects. I think we even had a project on craft brewing at one point, how to increase the productivity and marketing of that. So just have a look at the projects that have been funded if you go to the HQP website. And like I mentioned, if you're not sure, saying, well, I don't think my project will fit, yeah, just contact us and we can give you some guidance. All right, Kat? All right, so this is the head scratching bit, as I say. So anytime you want me to stop or just ask a clarification, it's a good time to do it. So in terms of eligibility, it is open to everyone, be it a citizen, an immigrant, or even if you're international abroad at the moment, you can actually apply. And we'll talk about the application process in a little bit. Now, as I mentioned, the HQP scholars I like to think of them as the best of the best because they're high achievers, certainly want to get ahead and become the next leaders. So we have a minimum of an A-. Now, obviously, some of you are at different universities, and there is this sort of equivalency list that exists. So you'll be able to tell this if when you apply to the graduate school, they'll give you a kind of grade based on equivalency, which I always find a bit odd, but this is what the world does. So this is the important part, in that you can be just coming into the graduate program, or you can be within the program. When we talk programs, it can be MSc or PhD, but at the time of application, you have to be in the first year. So first 3 semesters at the time of application, which is in January. So you can be in program or entering the program, and there's no difference in terms of evaluation. We don't say, oh, well, this person's in program, so they've got a bonus. It doesn't work like that. So it's not in that way biased in that respect. So you can be incoming or within the program within the first year. Now, you do have to have a advisory committee or faculty confirmed. So obviously, if you're in the program, you do have a faculty that's confirmed. If you're kind of entering the program, you need to have a faculty support in terms of the application. So with international students then, they can be applied, they must, well, this is the hard bit. International students have to be either enrolled in the program or at least have an application in the program. But if you're an international student and have yet to apply, you must again have this sort of connection with a faculty advisor who's willing to support you. So you don't have to have applied or been accepted into the program, but you do need to have, as I say, a faculty advisor willing to take you on. So, and it's all down to study visas, because as you can imagine, those who do have it, who are international, it takes a long time to get the visa, and you need a confirmed place to get the visa in the first place. So that's the reason why that is. But we'll talk about transcripts in a bit. But is everyone clear about that? Does everyone want to go over anything again?
Looks like we have a question.
I can't see it, Kat. Can you see it?
I had a question, Dr. Warner. So I was wondering if students who have not yet applied and who are starting in fall 2022 are eligible for this year's scholarship.
Yes, good question. So unless Kat corrects me, which she probably will, yeah, you can start in fall, and so you can be applying to the program, but you need to have a faculty who will support you in your application. So that's right, isn't it, Kat? They're allowed to start in the fall, and as long as they've got an advisor connected, they should be fine.
Yep.
Oh, thanks for that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thanks for it. Any other questions? I can't see.
Yep. Angie has their hand up.
Hello, good morning. Yeah, my name is Angie. So I wanted to ask you, I'm currently a PhD student in the food science program.
Oh,
So
yeah.
for the average, so currently I'm taking one class that it's finished on December 2. So the GPA is going to be based on that mark that I'm going to obtain in this course, or is going to take into account the GPA that I had when I applied for the PhD?
So I assume the GPA you have when you apply to your PhD is not 80%, is it?
I hope both of them are above.
I thought
Like,
so.
yeah.
Yes.
But I just wanted to know what I should use for the application.
Oh, you could use either. You know, it is the last 10 courses, because we do get situations where students didn't get the 80% average when they graduated. You could be 75 or something like that. So they could, it's the last 10 courses, but in your case, if you had 80% on both occasions, or more than 80%, then you could just use your entry GPA.
Okay, thank you so much. And for the application, that will be, I don't know, like shared from the department to the application, or should I submit my GPA, like the document that I have?
Yeah, I think I get it. So when we talk about uploading transcripts, this is going to be on the RSM system. So you don't need to go through the graduate secretaries for this. You just need to, because you're in the program, you can have unofficial transcript, which we'll talk about in a bit, because that's a complicated area. But no, once we get to the RSM, you can just upload your unofficial transcript, and it should be fine.
Thank you.
Yep. And then we've got Jacqueline has their hand up.
Oh, yeah, thanks. So I was wondering if you require any English language requirement for the application, if maybe you're not studying at University of Guelph.
Yeah, so the English language proficiency isn't part of the HQP, and this is one reason why we like people to actually apply to the graduate school, because obviously they do have an English requirement. But it's not part of this. It's literally the GPA that's more critical, not the English proficiency.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
And Vignesh.
Hi, everyone. I just had a quick question. So do you, prior to applying on the RMS system, do you have to submit your application to the graduate school first, or does it, can you do it simultaneously?
Yeah, so this is a kind of grey zone. If you can apply to the graduate school, then it gives reassurance in that you passed, you had the grad, or you just put your application in. And also, but the key thing is you've got to secure a faculty advisor. So to answer your question, you don't need to have applied, but you do need to have a graduate advisor.
Okay, thank you.
And as I mentioned, this does not form part of the review process, as does if you've got a GPA of 99 versus 80. It doesn't make a difference, nor does it make a difference if you apply to the graduate school or not. But yeah, it's good it's good to do for the faculty advisor, I suppose.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And then we've got one more, Ujo Manigo.
Hi, good morning.
Hi there.
So I'm a transfer. I transferred from master's to PhD, and I had taken a lot of courses at the master's level. So my question is, do I upload that as part of the transcripts? And also, why fill in the form for the application? I see where you have to list out your degrees. It appears it's only those degrees that have been completed. So do I also include my period as a master's student and then show it was not because I transferred, so I didn't complete that. So I'm a bit confused there.
All right. So it's so what it is that as long as you've got an 80% average, be it on your first degree or your last 10 courses, which I assume for the MSc you took 3 or 4 courses maybe, it makes it easier if you just, and I assume you got more than 80. If you're going for an MSc to a PhD, I assume you got more than 80% on your GPA on your other degree or your previous degree. But in the transcript, you can, if you haven't got that 80% and you say, well, I've done my master's courses, I've got 3 at whatever, 88%, then they'll do the sort of, you can use the previous 10 courses to calculate the GPA, if that makes a bit of sense. But, you know, as mentioned, it's easier, I think, you know, just to have your previous degree. We just want to make sure the people who are applying have that kind of, I don't like to call it high academic standing, if you want to call it that. So in your case, and you don't have to tell me what your GPA is, is your previous GPA more than 80%?
As a master's, yes, it was. It is more than 80%, yes.
But your original degree wasn't quite 80%, is that correct?
So it's greater than A- because it's in Nigeria, it's a different way of classifying. Yes, so it's an A in Nigeria, but I think it's different from the way it's done in North America.
Yeah, I must admit, I find it very confusing myself that you get an A in one country and suddenly they'll say, oh, no, that's not an A here. But so in your case, what I would do then is, I don't know how many courses you took for the MSc, but you could include those. So it's like I mentioned, last 10. Yeah.
So yeah, if you've taken the MSc courses at Guelph, you can upload the unofficial transcript for those courses. For the review committee, we kind of just want to see what courses you've taken, essentially. But the University of Guelph has access to those grades anyways, so just an unofficial transcript is fine. And then your department graduate program advisors will know how to kind of figure out your grades from your other institutions. Since you're already enrolled at Guelph, so they would already have access to that information, if that makes sense. So you can upload unofficial for both.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
It does.
And then for your question about the past education table, so if you haven't completed your master's, obviously you can put like transferred or ongoing or NA for that. It's just a text field technically, so you can put something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, like I say, as long as your average is above 80, you should be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks again.
All right, I think that's it for now.
So, yeah, we'll go. All right, then. So who can't apply for it is OMAFRA people. And also what we try to, there's loads of awards out there, you know, the NSERCs and all this OGSs. You can't hold them both concomitantly. So, you know, you can't have an OGS and an HQP scholarship. And, you know, it's obviously, so if you, I assume a lot of you, well, some of you might be applying for these. So if, for example, you apply for a HQP scholarship at NSERC and you'll say, I feel like the NSERC, then just let us know. Obviously, finance will monitor it as well. But so you can't hold 2 in parallel. But what it doesn't exclude is TA-ship. So if you get a TA-ship, that's fine. If you get a MyTAC award for a few months research, that's fine. It just has to be below the 15,000 a year. Once it goes above that, then you've got to notify us. And if you've been a previous recipient, so say, for example, you applied for an MSc HQP, that doesn't mean, say, you can apply for a PhD HQP once you've done it. But as you rightly mentioned just before, if you transfer, you can transfer from an MSc to a PhD and still be eligible. But you can't be a pass holder, or I think that makes sense. All right. So here's the money part then. So essentially, if you're the HQP scholarship for a master's student is 20,000 a year. If you're entering an MSc, you get 6 semesters of funding. But if you're within course, i.e. you've already started your MSc, you get 3 semesters of funding, i.e. a year, isn't it? And if you're a doctorate, you get 25,000. Apparently, it costs more to be a PhD. I suppose it could in a way. If you entering the program of a PhD, then you get 9 semesters of funding. But if you're in course, i.e. within the first year, you get 6 semesters of funding. And when you go on to the University of Guelph website and put HQP, you'll get the old program. It's still up there. In the old program, what used to happen is the faculty used to have to provide $6,000 top up to the HQP, but that's no longer the case. So, because usually advisors, when they see you have to do a top up, it kind of screws up their budget. So if you're a faculty member, you don't need to top them up. All the funding's coming from the HQP. Okay. So in terms of the application process, and I think some of you's already visited this, it's the RMS system, which can be found at this link. And the deadline is for the 18th of January, but you've got to be wary not to go up to the 17th of January and start doing putting the application in, because it's a 2-part process. The first part is the student part, where you put the details of the proposal, your background, your motivation, your future career aspirations. But the faculty also needs to complete the form, and when you get to the RMS, you'll invite them onto the application. And what they do is really state the benefit of the HQP to the student, because sometimes the student don't articulate, it's not anything about applicants, but applicants don't articulate the sort of benefit they'll get from the program, whereas faculty, because they're all kind of seasoned, if you want, experience is another term, will be able to identify it in that particular project. So complete the application fairly well in advance, because faculty are always going out everywhere, and give them at least some notice to complete. Okay. All right, so the actual application process isn't very extensive. So you put your proposal title, and I always advise people, use the title as like a headline. What is the main theme of the project? Then you'll do the project description, and then you'll write a part about the priorities. How does it fit one of your macro priorities? And as I know I keep going on about it, but these are very broad, but you've got to fit into one of those sort of boxes or across boxes within your macro priorities. So be sure to read that whilst you're writing your application. Your degree, MSc, PhD, your department, and background interest in the agri-food sector. So this is a critical part, in that, it's so tempting, isn't it, to write saying, I want to save the world and things like that, which is very virtuous and maybe true. But what you've really got to emphasize here is that maybe you've had experience in the agri-food sector, whatever that experience is, and why you really want to become a HQP scholarship. How will this help you on your road to become a leader and innovator? So, for example, you might think, well, all I want to do is a research project. I want to go through academia, be a professor, retire. Whereas what we're really looking for, those people, as I know I keep mentioning it, but it's true, want to become the next leaders. They want to get involved in government. They want to get involved in business. They want to become leaders in the agri-food sector. So you've really got to give a statement about how the HQP will help you in this respect, and include a curriculum vitae. And don't be worried about putting little bits of experience down, because we know you're not going to be the CEO of Google or anything like that. But you could have worked in the industry, be it an internship, you could have volunteered within a humane society, you could have got a job on a farm or job within a product development. So don't be worried about holding back. Any experience you have with the agri-food sector is good, and the transcript. So we've got a hand up, so I'll answer the question. Yep, so you can open your line up, or you can type, or...
Hello,
Hi
it's me again. Can you hear me clearly? Yeah, thank you. So I have a question regarding the fit with the OMAFRA priorities, because I have gone through to the system and you have like a drop-down menu that I assume is that part. Or should we link the OMAFRA priorities in the description text, like for example, career goals and background? What would you recommend?
Just the drop down for the student application part. The faculty application part has a text field where they'll also explain how the research project aligns with OMAFRA priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like I say, they're open to interpretation. So I know I keep repeating, but don't think because you don't work in OAC or OVC, it's precluded. It's all inclusive. So as I mentioned, then when you're writing a student application, really, what you've got to, well, I don't like to say, but you've got to convince us saying, yes, I'm interested in the agri-food sector. I want to do this as my career, whichever career you want. All right. Right, this is the head scratcher again. So essentially, we do allow unofficial transcripts if you're within the program or within the University of Guelph. So official transcripts are really required if you're coming from international, or you've taken courses outside of the University of Guelph and you're using those to calculate your average GPA. But other than that, if you're within the program, as I mentioned, you can just have the unofficial transcript. And but if you're international or you're using grades from another university, then you have to have an official transcript. I think that's right, isn't it, Kat?
If you're international, you should have already applied to the University of Guelph, so we don't technically need an official one uploaded to the application.
All right, thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually the next slide kind of explains it better, I guess.
Oh yes. Oh well, we can read it, isn't it? So yeah, official transcript. If you've not yet applied to the graduate school, which is true, or you using grades from another institution. All right. Oh yes, hand up.
Hi, just a quick question. So if you're applying to a PhD program, do you need your transcript from your master's and a bachelor's, or is the transcript just from the master's okay?
Yeah, so it's the last 10 courses. So I imagine with a master's, you would have, well, depending on what master's you did take, but it is the last 10, isn't it, Kat, that the count? So that would include MSc and your BSc.
The last 10 courses. Okay. Those courses are, I'm assuming, yeah, grade courses then, right? Okay. So what if you did like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 courses at the University of Guelph and like 4 courses at a different university? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You just need to upload unofficial transcripts of the undergrad and at your master's at Guelph. Just the unofficial is fine, but we'll still look at some courses from your undergrad. So.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for that. All right. So I think
we got a couple more questions now. Jessica.
Hi, I just had a quick question for clarification. So if we have already applied to the program, do we need, and they have access, and University of Guelph have access to are, say, a master?
Yeah, so if you've already applied to the program, then you don't need an official, do you, Kat? That's right. Yeah, so you don't need an official if you apply to the program.
Yeah. And Ajwal?
So regarding the transcripts of the last 10 courses, so for my bachelor's transcript, it's the courses are not arranged in chronological order, so it's basically department-wise. So I was wondering how that was counted as the last 10 courses.
Yeah, so it's chronological, even though, as you rightly said, a lot of people don't do it chronologically. They'll just kind of put it by department. But it's just for leaving a note, I suppose, saying these are the last 10 courses. And we'll be able to see it because I assume, even though they're not listed chronologically, there'll be dates on them. Or you could even highlight which courses were the last 10.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, so so then it comes to the faculty. So what the faculty have to do when you go to the RMS, as we'll talk about, there's an invitation tab, and you just put their email in, and then you'll send it to them, and hopefully they'll accept. And what they need to do is just write a paragraph on how the student will benefit. As I mentioned before, is that when you're applying, you don't see a very big picture as the faculty have due to age status, I suppose. So they can, again, confirm, say, yes, they would really benefit because this research will be very directly applied to the agri-food sector. And what the faculty have to do, even though they don't have to give a top-up, what they do have to do is confirm that the resources, apart from the stipend, are available. So if you're doing a research project in, I don't know, food science, then the faculty has to confirm that they can give you the resources required to complete the project, materials, lab space, and things like that. But we also recognise that certain disciplines, like computer science, don't need this sort of substantial support. So as long as they've got the resources to complete, the advisor needs to just to add that part. Yep, another hand.
Hi, just a quick question. So during the application process, the part 3 that the faculty advisor has to do, does that do they have to complete that after you complete part 1 and part 2, or could it all be done simultaneously?
Yeah, it can be simultaneously. So what you'll notice when you go onto the RMS is that you invite them, and that'll take them to this special page. You won't be able to see the page yourself, where they'll complete it. But I assume they might want to see the original application to help them, even though they shouldn't need help, identify what the project is and how you would benefit. Because we're aware that obviously if you haven't started the program, the most contact you had with your advisor is maybe an interview. So I always say it's good to, and they can advise you saying, well, you should write this and write that. But yeah, you can do them in parallel for sure.
Thank you.
All right.
I just want to note, though, only one person can have the application open at a time. Like, you can't actually be in the application at the same time as your advisor, but yeah, once they log out, you can work on your section and then you log out. Yeah.
That's right. All right then. So the RMS system, as I mentioned, there's a link. You've seen the link to it. So once you go on there, you've got to register, which is a fairly straightforward process. And once you've registered, you can log in, and then yep, you can go to the next slide. So you'll notice a few tabs here. What you'll go for is the open calls, which will identify the HQP program. So you just you can determine your eligibility first, and that's just a series of a few questions. And if you're eligible, you go to the actual main application form after that. And then when you get there, it's fairly intuitive in terms of you give details, you fill in the boxes as we talked about the different parts of it, maybe upload your transcript. And I know I keep saying it, but I'll emphasize it. You know, really that sort of statement you have is very critical. You know, you've got to really, I wouldn't say convince, but sell yourself, if that's the right word as well, that, you know, I'm doing a project that's relevant to Ontario. I want to be in business and I want to be an innovator or a policy maker. These are very important aspects when we do the evaluation. So in terms of application review, once the applications are in, which is again the 18th of January, the actual review committee is made up of both OMAFRA people, faculty, sometimes we have industry people as well. And when we do review it, we don't, as I mentioned to you, if somebody got a GPA of 85 and someone got 99, we don't know difference on that. Really what we focus on, and I'll keep saying it, is the lead. Have you got work experience? Have you got experience in the area? We don't expect you to be a CEO or anything like that, but just working in a sort of food related area or even within communities, and that is very good. So don't hold back. Your future career aspirations, yeah, as I mentioned to you, really what we're looking for are people who are going to work in the Ontario agri-food industry. And when we think about jobs, you think, well, I don't want to be a farmer, but you know, the agri-food industry is very much broad. It really does go the whole spectrum. The research potential, really, you know, as you're starting up graduate studies, we don't expect you to have, you know, H ratings or high number of citations, but anything you've done, you know, be it presenting a poster, writing an abstract, if you published a paper, all well and good, attended conferences, because what that demonstrates, isn't it, is that you're really interested in research, which I guess you all are because you're doing degrees, but it's just that anything you've done to in terms of interacting with research projects, all things, even in summer studentships, URSA, you might have been packing tip boxes most of the time, but it's still experience. And what's your alignment with the priorities? As we said, you look for the Ontario OMAFRA research priorities and just get alignment with those, and it's very broad again. So what we hope to do is that we sit and then we deliberate, and typically about 20 scholarships are funded each year, depending on budgets, depending on how many are in program, out of program. But as I mentioned, we don't differentiate between incoming students or those within program. So there's 20 up for grabs, MSc and PhD, and we announce them in March. And if you're within program, that's fine, you start getting funding. But if you're coming into the program and you can start in the summer semester or wait till the fall semester, but that's about the limit, isn't it, Kat? I don't think we stretch to next winter, do we?
It's pretty rare that someone would be even that organized, I guess.
No, I can't remember ever doing that, to be honest. So yeah. And what we might also note is that if you get a scholarship and you've got an MSc, you're doing an MSc, and your advice says your PhD material, you can upgrade to an MSc. So you upgrade from an MSc to a PhD, and your HQP scholarship increases as well. So those, some people, once they start the MSc, can get upgrade. And I suppose that's the alternative, which is very rare, a PhD coming down to an MSc. That's possible as well, but I've never seen that, to be honest. But I think that's the idea. All right. So, as I mentioned to you, this scholarship is different from other scholarships. Because other scholarships, you say, well, thanks for the money, I'm going along. What you have to do in this one, apart from the Uni 60/50 course, which we talked about, which you have to take, and it's over 2 semesters, you attend the HQP recognition event. And really, I don't like to say it's compulsory because it's the wrong term. What we want to do with the HQP recognition event is recognise your achievements in both within the HQP programme and recognise those who have overcome everything to get a HQP scholarship. And as I mentioned, what we want to do really is follow your career, because that's really what it's to do with. We want to tell stories to the next future generation that this is how you become in the agri-food industry. And these stories are powerful because we can talk about oh yes, the food industry, agri-food industry is really good, but actual stories. So these aren't meant to be say, oh God, I've got to go to a recognition event. It really is down to celebrate your sort of achievements. And when you do graduate, it's really good if you could keep in touch with us. We have a LinkedIn page, but we can have other means as well. Just to tell your story, how the HQP has helped you, because it really does help us, because we want to know, are we doing things wrong? Are we missing something? And that's really helpful. Now, these annual and final reports, I know when people say, oh God, you want a report? So this is a pain. Again, what these are to do with isn't so much saying, well, we want to keep tabs on you. We want to see how you progress, to tell your story of how your research is going, because when we come to the recognition event, we attract industry, government, and this is a showcase to say, this is our research, and somebody in the audience might say, wow, that's really good, I want to look into that. And so when we talk about reporting and that, it really it's to promote your research. And obviously it goes without saying, which I don't think it'll come to a point, as you know, in the graduate program, you do advisory committee meetings, and you get satisfactory, unsatisfactory. I'm sure you're all going to be satisfactory, but it all depends on that. Like if you fall out of the program for whatever reason, withdraw, then you've got to let us know. Sorry.
We got a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, right. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
With 20 scholarships available, is there a certain allocation? Yeah, you're right. So what we try to do is split them because it's unfair, isn't it? Because the PhD students will always have more research experience, and things like that. So we kind of do a even split. The average success rate, it depends. Typically we get about 100 applications a year. So mathematics-wise, it's around 20%. So that's everything competitive, but certainly I think, as I mentioned, because our scholarships have this component of business, I think we attract not those looking for funding per se, but those looking to say, yeah, I really want to get into business in the agri-food sector. So yeah, that's the sort of average. We've got about 20%.
Hi, Keith. I just want to add one point to that too, in that we don't actually have a specific number of applications. It's usually around 20 or number of awards.
Yeah.
But how it works is, depending if it's in course or an entrance scholarship, there will be a different value. So yeah, historically we've awarded 18 to 20, and you're spot on with the 20% success rate. That seems to be pretty consistent.
Yeah, it really, as you can imagine, really depends on budgets. But I want to emphasise that if we come to the point saying, well, this student's in programme, this student's coming in, we don't say, oh, well, let's just stick to this and get more scholarship. We literally do that right at the end, because what we also find is applicants will apply for MCirc and SHIRC and all that, OGS. We have several who defer the HQP and may go for that. And so, I think there's like I say, we try to identify those that really will benefit from it. So I know I keep saying it, but this is the point. You've got to just convince the review committee, say, yep, I really want this career. This is my background to prove it, and things like that. All right, so if you've got any questions about the funding program, and you can contact me, my email's there. If you've anything to do with the RMS, then Kat and Tanya are the people to see. As I mentioned, try to avoid last minute, because you've got those two parts. But just any questions you have, you can call or send an email and we'll get back to you with that.
Yep. So I didn't actually introduce myself, but my name's Kat. I'm a research program coordinator with the Alliance, and I'm the main point of contact for the HQP program if you have questions about the RMS application. Even questions about the program itself, I often get forwarded those questions and can answer them usually. So, and I'm happy to meet over Microsoft Teams for a quick chat or, yeah.
That's good. So that's good. So no, thanks again for attending. And like I say, we are open to if you need any queries. And yeah, just review the OMAFRA priorities as we mentioned, and we should be good. Okay.
Just a note that you can access the HQP program guide and all the information about the program. That's a short link to get to our page. I can post the actual link in the chat as well. But everything you need to apply is on that webpage. Yeah,
and like I mentioned, just be careful when you go onto the university website, because when you put HQP, you'll get the old program, and poor Al will say, "Yeah, you know, I'm not the director anymore." So I think it's, but yeah, go for the newer link. You'll be fine. It's got all the information there, as Kat might have said. So we stopped recording, or are we still recording? Sorry.
I guess no one has any questions.